Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu shehakol nidbarei.
Amen.
L'chaim v'lebracha. All right, folks. Gimel Tammuz is this Sunday, and therefore, to prepare for Gimel Tammuz, let's review Mimer that we've done. Ata Tetzava, a Mimer that was given out, um, or was said actually, might have been the last or second last Hasidic discourse that I heard from the Rebbe before I went out on Shlichus. Ata Tetzava, it was given out right before the Rebbe's stroke, the last discourse. So this is traditionally like the teachings of the Rebbe that's connected with Gimel Tammuz, the day Sunday, 31 years since the physical passing of the Rebbe. Yeah, l'chaim bracha. Ata Tetzava Bnei Israel, and you should command the children of Israel be lech, and they should bring to you Shem and Zayis Zoch, crushed olive oil, Chassidus, lamor for the luminary, lahalas ner tummy, to ascend a continual light. So it's known the questions that are on this that it says ata titzava, you shall command. Usually it's tzav has been Israel, command the Jewish people is the terminology usually used. This is a different terminology. You shall command. And further, that term seemingly doesn't make sense because Moshe doesn't command. He just gives over the commandment of God. So why does it say you should command? Why does God say to him you should command? Um, Furthermore, we also need to answer lecha, that the olive oil, crushed olive oil, should be brought to you, to Moses, to Moshe Rabbeinu. This is not his job, though. This is the job of Aaron, okay, of lighting the menorah. So why would the verse say to bring it to you and not to Aaron? And the fourth question is, it says kosis lamor, that it is crushed for the luminary. Seemingly, it's crushed in order to make light, not for the lamps, for the luminary, but for the lights. Why does it? For what you want. What you want to accomplish is that there should be light. So why doesn't it say that? So we'll understand based on the teachings of the previous Rebbe who said a discourse on this, that you should command means you shall connect, as the word command um, has a relationship to connection, right? So God's commandments, for example, are a connection to God. You shall connect, you, Moshe, the Jewish people, to Or Safe, to the infinite of God. And through this, that Moshe gives to the Jewish people, influences, inspires them, connecting them to the Or Safe. Through this, there's also something added to Moshe. Being that Moshe is the feet, the Jewish people are like the feet of the body of the Jewish people. The Moshe is the head. He's amongst them, meaning he's the head, but the feet have something that they accomplish that the head doesn't. and that is to bring the head where it needs to go. So therefore, the crushed olive oil is being brought to Moshe because he needs the Jewish people as a feet in order to bring him to where he needs to go. Now, there's a reciprocal relationship between Moshe and the Jewish people. Excuse me a moment. So therefore, they add something to Moshe. And that's the idea of that they're bringing him the crushed olive oil. Right, the reciprocal. He's bringing them, connecting them to the infinite of God. Through this, the Jewish people are bringing crushed olive oil to add light in Moshe. To further explain this, we need to understand how there's this reciprocal relationship. Moshe Rabbeinu, he is the faithful shepherd. That there's two ideas to what it means, a faithful shepherd. That he's faithful to the Jewish people. For a simple explanation, it's just like a shepherd is, faithful to his flock. Second is that he feeds the flock. What does Moshe Rabbeinu feed the Jewish people? Faith. That the faith of every Jew, the truth is they have it on their own stead, right? That we have a piece of God in us, so therefore we have faith. We're believers, the descendants of believers. But that belief that we have on our own stead could be what we call makif, meaning we experience it beyond us. It's not internalized within us. And Moshe Rabbeinu, he feeds the flock with emunah, with faith, in order that the faith should be internalized and become part of us. As the Zohar expresses, that this is the emunah that through Moshe Rabbeinu feeding, he draws this light, draws it and internalizes the faith that we have in others to make it real. Internalizing meaning that usually faith is, related with an idea that's something beyond us. We have faith. Yeah, you have faith, meaning it's beyond you, and that which it transcends you, you have faith in. So we have that, but Moshe Rabbeinu, what Moses is doing, is giving us the capability that we can internalize it, make it a part of us, not beyond us. And in the discourse of the previous Rebbe, he continues and says that this is not only Moses of his generation, but the extension of Moshe in every single generation. The leaders of the generation, they strengthen the faith of the Jewish people, that their faith should be internalized. This is like Mordechai in the story of Purim, who is the extension of Moshe in his generation. As our sages say, Mordechai in his generation was like Moses in his generation. When there was a decree of Haman, who wanted to destroy the Jewish people, annihilate them, and so Mordechai, he fed faith that it should be internalized by the Jewish people at that time, brought them closer, connected to God. that they how so that they learned Torah and they fulfilled mitzvahs in a way of self-sacrifice, giving themselves over. They gathered publicly to strengthen the faith of the Jewish people, even though there was a decree over them of annihilation coming. So they gathered them in order that they should stand strong in the study of Torah and in the fulfillment of mitzvahs. So after explaining the previous Rebbe in his discourse, this idea, right, that Moses strengthened the bond that every Jew has, right, and Mordechai did that in his time. And that's what the extension of Moshe Rabbeinu does in every generation to strengthen the Jewish people of their generation. So then he goes on to explain the fact that, right, that's a reciprocal relationship. So we asked the question, why does it say that crushed for the luminary, for the lamps, the source of light, rather than crushed olive oil to produce light? So explain, because in a time of exile, like the story of Purim and now, where everybody's broken because of God's presence isn't palpable, isn't real in exile. There's a lot of suffering that goes on in such a time. A lot of difficulties, pain. But that pain, that difficulty allows us to reach to the core essence of our soul, right? Where light illuminates from our soul. In other words, the ma'or, the luminary from within, the very core of the soul, the source of light. Right? That's what happens. So we have two ideas here that we need to see what's the connection between them. There's the idea of the leader of the generation who inspires the generation in internalizing their faith. Right? Moses did it. Mordechai did it. Right? And then there's the idea of the individual in exile, right? In a time of darkness, that they're crushed. That's what it means, crushed olive oil, right? That the best comes out, right? The best of you come out. That and not the best light of you merely, but the source of light that's within you. In other words, the whole point of the crushing experience is to bring out something that's core within you. So what's the relationship between these two ideas? That's what we need to understand. So, right, what's it about what Moses does for us and what we do? And what we do, right? In time of exile, of galus, difficult and challenging situations. So this is all based on the previous Rebbe's teachings. That's what the Rebbe's trying to understand. Previous Rebbe's teachings were said in 1927. Yeah, almost 100 years ago. So then we have to back up in the previous Rebbe's teachings that he bases it all on a verse in the story of Purim, that the Jewish people in the story of Purim, which was a time of exile. Mordechai, the leader, who helped to internalize the faith that they have, and that they were crushed in that time, that led to a revealing the core of them, right? Not being broken, but becoming more. So the discourse begins with the idea that the Jewish people, they had begun to do that which they had begun to do, right? So it explains that which they began, where did they begin? Where is our beginning as a Jewish people? At Mount Sinai, right? At Mount Sinai. That's where we began. So that's where the beginning is. And at times as Vachashverosh, that's when we completely received and accepted, right? So it was Kibbutz Yehudim. That which they already accepted at Mount Sinai, to be a servant of God, to be connected to God. Here comes in the days of Achashverosh, and the story of Purim, we come to complete fulfillment. And he explains in the discourse that seemingly this is something very unusual. At Mount Sinai, we had a great revelation of godliness, so much so that our souls took flight. It was such a lofty experience. And the story of Purim, we were on the lowest of low, annihilation, decreed to annihilate the Jewish people, God forbid. Complete hiddenness of God, as opposed to Mount Sinai was complete revelation of God. So how do we understand? How do we understand that for the time of giving the Torah was only the beginning, and by the decree of Haman was a complete acceptance? And that was because of the complete sacrifice that the Jewish people had then for Torah mitzvahs, that they reached to a higher level more than they were from the times of the giving of the Torah. Therefore, specifically then was a total acceptance. Okay, we'll continue. Just remind me that we are at the end, chapter 4. Okay, we're going quickly through it, and we've learned it several times actually throughout the years. We've learned this discourse, but again, it's Gimel Tammuz, so a good prep